We're back, baby. It is the Daily Stripe, Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. June's days are almost numbered, gentlemen. That means football is, what do you say, Nick, the other day? We were nine Saturdays away from Texas football.
Yeah, from college football starting. Well, I'm sure there's a couple of games before that, but yeah, from our horns at least.
Nice. Very exciting stuff. We are still, as we always say, in the throes of summer, though. NBA offseason coming up. We'll talk a little Draymond Green later in the show. Fantasy football. If college football and NFL are right around the corner, that means fantasy football is right around the corner. We have the Raiders scheduled to break down, which is fun. The title says it all. Mahomes Burrow rivalry. We'll talk that. I do want to kick off the show with an amazing thing we all got to witness last night, late in the Los Angeles area. Shohei Ohtani hitting the mound, 6 1/3, had to come out because of a fingernail issue. 10 Ks, 2 home runs, 3 for 3, raising his batting average above 300. Shohei Ohtani is now the odds-on favorite to win MVP at minus 1,200. The next best is plus 650. Ohtani is on pace for 56 home runs, 128 RBIs, and 254 strikeouts on the mound. I'm not going to say we'll see. It's not a guarantee we're going to see him go for 60 or come close to 60, but we're going to get a dance with 60 again this year. And I think that's pretty exciting. If we've discussed it before, Ohtani at the Triple Crown is one thing we've talked about. Ohtani going for 60 is another. And then on top of that, if we could see Arise try to go for 400, we may be in September, and while races will be tight, I think in the NL West should be fun. AL West could be interesting. The Centrals could be interesting, I guess, as unexciting as they have been. But we might be in some statistical races individually that, again, we saw Judge last year, but a couple guys might be in it with some things we've never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, I think this has been one of the craziest years in baseball history, honestly. I mean, Jeff Balke of the Believe in Astros podcast tweeted at us that, this is just one of the most insane years, and there's nothing really, you could really think about that has come close to this. I was talking about the Padres season, and honestly, like, so many little things here and there have just been so out of the blue and out of the ordinary. I mean, with the Riots going for 400, you're mentioning Judge, Ohtani. I mean, this is just an unprecedented season that we're all able to witness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stolen bases as well. Esty Ruiz, Acuna both of these guys trying to go for 70 for the first time since Ellsbury did it, and no one's gone for an 80 in a hot minute. So really exciting statistic season for baseball. We talk about it all the time, but Ohtani once again last night proving that he is not only the best baseball player on the planet, but maybe the best baseball player ever. What I said, the best athlete of all time, which people Gretzky, LeBron, Jordan, Phelps. But what this guy is doing and how dominant he is on the mound and at the dish, for me, it's very tough to argue.
Individual performance-wise, yeah, it's tough. I mean, all those guys have hardware. I mean, it's really what counts at the end of the day is winning. And there's no slight on him as a player. It's just the organization. I mean, we talked about Trout being one of the best baseball players of all time as well. And he hasn't really been able to put victories on the table, and that's not his fault. Baseball is one of those sports that if you're stuck on a crappy team, then you don't really have the opportunity to shine. But we'll see what happens because they're competitive this year, and they might have an opportunity to make a run. And then if not this year, where's he going to land next year in free agency?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was the same conversation that we had when you asked this question probably 3 years ago when you first mentioned it. This is not the first time you've asked this question to us. And I think my answer is still the same. While I look at Shohei Ohtani differently as I did 3 years ago, the sports are about winning titles, winning championships, whatever your league calls the Stanley Cup, the World Series, whatever it is, the NBA championship, NBA finals. And I know it is a really, really difficult task, as Nick is saying, in baseball to win the World Series. But I can't just go out and say that this guy's the best athlete ever until he gets it done. It doesn't mean he has to win 5. It doesn't mean he has to win 3. Even the fact that, let's see this guy go deep in the playoffs and fall. right, and see what he does like in a playoff series, and then hopefully wins a World Series. I'd love for him to win a World Series because I think then he would get the flowers from everyone that he deserves, and it's just a joy to watch him play. But yeah, it's the same conversation that we had about Nikola Jokic. People are finally willing to call him the best player on the planet, but they weren't before he won a championship because he hadn't done it when it mattered most. And for any of these guys, I think for both those guys in their respective sports, Jokic and Shohei, they have a lot more work to do to end up in the all-time list at the top. But I think it's within reason that they can both get there.
We mentioned yesterday, I believe, or maybe it was the day before. I don't know, the days are blending together at this point in the summer. That your age 30 to like 34, 30, 33 season, you know, is usually like when you're hitting your prime as an athlete. And, you know, we're looking at Shohei and Jokic. They're both, I think, 28, right? So a lot of time left for these guys to really hit, you know, full potential and catch their stride and, you know, be the best player they can be and hopefully win more championships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that with Ohtani winning a championship, we talk about in baseball. I mean, the guy that comes to my mind at least is Madison Bumgarner, right? And Bumgarner, you know, is lauded for his heroics on the mound. Andrew Miller didn't get it done with the Guardians, then Indians, but for that playoff run that he had against the Cubs, which Nick, you brought up in one of our shows as being one of the best playoff matchups and World Series matchups, championship matchups we've ever seen in sports. He was lauded for his heroics on the mound. Guys that pitch well. I mean, hitters do get crap, so to speak. I mean, A-Rod got it a little bit for not getting it done up until he did it with the Yankees. Bonds as well. But you don't see Bonds and Griffey, guys without rings, some of the greatest hitters of all time, get it as much as pitchers like Kershaw did. Because those guys really have a serious fingerprint on the game when they get on the mound. Ohtani is a bit of a different case. As we all know, he's going to have the option on both sides. He's going to have to do it at the dish and on the mound. So if he does get it done and he is great on the mound, you could make the argument that no player, and he does well at the dish. If he continues to do this, I'm saying through the playoffs and into the World Series and they get it done, no player in the history of the game has had a bigger fingerprint on a championship.
Yeah, agreed. Let's talk about this headline here that we have on our title because
we've got,
our guy Ronnie's in the comments. I love it.
Ronnie, not so shy Ronnie. Okay, let's see what Ronnie says. Yeah, so the title, for those who can't see, is Burrow-Mahomes. Is this the best individual rivalry in sports right now? Ronnie Smith in the comments. Yes, it is. This is the new NFL rival, to be honest. But it was KC who picked this rivalry, not Cincinnati. And they don't consider them a real rivalry. They're just in the way of a Super Bowl. Cincinnati, real rival, is the AFC North, not Kansas City. The NFL is now on Burrow time. Who day, Ronnie Smith, show us your watch, my guy. I think first of all, I think the NFL. Oh, he's really going off. I love Ronnie. Not so shy Ronnie. Epic. The NFL made this rivalry, right? Look, these guys have played 4 times, twice in the AFC Championship. They're 1-1 there. Burrow's 3-1 all time. They play each other on the schedule this year, week 17. Not week 18, where the guys are sitting, not early on. They play each other again, week 17, what the NFL hopes will decide who the AFC winner is. The NFL is pushing this rivalry. They saw how successful it was with Brady and Manning. And look, obviously Brady and Manning, there was Big Ben, there was Phillip Rivers, there was other quarterbacks at that, Drew Brees at that time, who entered the fray. Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, I guess, was around for, a millennium. You have your Herbert, you have your Lawrence, you have your Lamar and Josh Allen, but really these two guys are the only 2 young dudes to get to the Super Bowl. And now we sit here, Burrow versus Mahomes. Is this the greatest individual rivalry, not only in the NFL, but all of sports right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most competitive at this point. I mean, two teams that are going neck and neck when it comes to, being able to make to the Super Bowl and get to the highest level. And of course, Cincinnati was there a couple years ago, and then the Chiefs got it done last year. And then of course, they beat each other to get to the Super Bowl in years prior. So we can continue to see this for years to come. And they're both young guns that can keep it going. It's kind of that Manny Brady-esque type, rivalry that I'm seeing here. I mean, if you're looking at jersey sales too, Mahomes is number 3. Burrow's number 4 in the month of May for jersey sales. So, it's one of those things where it's popularity, but also the fact that they're the best in the league right now.
Yeah.
Well, who are 1 and 2 if you have that list?
You guys want to guess?
I do. Thank you. We love guessing on this show.
Well,
Tuss, you want to take crack first?
Fresh off the draft, obviously in May, is one of them a rookie coming into the league?
Not 1 or 2, but there is a rookie at 5.
Okay.
You guys want to do top 10? This will be fun.
Are these active players?
Everyone's an active player. This is of the month of May. Okay. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks in here, and then 1 defensive player. So
I'll take Toss.
Mahomes and Burrow are 3 and 4.
I think Rodgers is there.
Okay. What number do you think he is?
2.
Rodgers is number 1. And the New York Jets.
It was a conservative guess
8.
there by Josh.
But
yeah.
Rodgers
is number 1.
The defensive player, I'm going to go Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons is the defensive player at number 6.
Wow.
Is Lamar number 2?
Lamar is not number 2, but he is in the top 10.
Cool.
Okay.
Lamar is number 9.
Number is
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence is not on this list.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Josh Allen.
Josh Allen is number 7.
Oh, wow. Josh Allen's number 7. Okay.
Herbie fully loaded.
Herbert is not on this list.
Come on, dude. We've lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. We know one Chargers fan.
No,
I think
this is just a little bit of a.
I might have the only Justin Herbert jersey in LA, honestly.
Here's a weird one.
Ronnie, it's not. Brock is not in it. Ronnie,
I'm gonna take a shot here.
No, Ronnie's
Derek
saying
Carr.
the only team that KC's not scared of KC is Brock.
Oh,
and SF. Herbert stinks. Herbert stinks from Ronnie.
Love that, Ronnie. We got Ronnie Smith in our comments telling us that Herbert stinks. Okay, Nick, how about Derek Carr? He switched teams.
Nope, not in the top 10.
Oh, Dak, obviously quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Got
no Dak.
Danny Dimes.
No Danny Dimes. You're missing number 2. You're missing number 5. You're missing number 8 and 10. Hurts is number 2.
Okay. Jesus.
So you have 1 through 4. You have 6, 7, 9. You're still missing 10, 8. And
God, who are these quarterbacks?
Can I get a Broncos country let's ride, please?
You cannot.
Let's wait and see.
No, Broncos country. Let's wait and see. No. What about a Eugenio Smith?
Nope.
No way.
What do you mean, no way? Dude, Russell Wilson stunk last year.
If Justin Herbert is not on the list, then Geno Smith is not on the list.
The Water Falcons have a bigger fan base.
I'll give you another hint. 2 of these guys are rookies.
Oh, okay. 2 of these guys are rookie. Well, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud.
Bryce Young is 5. CJ Stroud is on this list.
Anthony Richardson.
Richardson is 8. Number 10 is
not a rookie.
Not a rookie, but this is kind of a tough one.
Goff?
Nope.
Love.
Two a time.
Jordan Love.
Wow.
So,
Ritter,
dude, people are buying into Jordan Love.
To refresh the list here, number 1 in May NFL jersey sales, Rodgers at 1, Jalen Hurts at 2, Patrick Mahomes at 3, Joe Burrow at 4, Bryce Young at 5, Micah Parsons at 6, Josh Allen at 7, Anthony Richardson at 8, Lamar Jackson at 9, and Jordan Love at 10. And that's for the month of May. So we'll get a fresh list of June soon. I'm sure it won't be any different.
No suspense there. But back to this Burrow quickly, Mahomes rivalry. To me, while I think it's an exciting rivalry, while I think these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, and probably the 2 best teams in the AFC, I think, kind of going back to your guys' point on winning a championship, I think the rivalry really takes the next step when Burrow wins an MVP, when Burrow wins a championship. I know he's gotten to the Super Bowl. Mahomes has multiple MVPs and multiple Super Bowls. And while the head-to-head rivalry favors Burrow, to me, to really make this a rivalry, while it may be the best right now, in the Manning and Brady level, Ronaldo, Messi level.
Needs some hardware.
Needs
an award or needs a championship. One of the 2 this year.
Yeah.
I think there's also something to the narrative if Mahomes beats Burrow for the next 3-4 years. Like, that adds to the narrative, right? Like the only reason I'm thinking of other rivalries in sports right now, and there's some things that we need to check the boxes to even hold a candle to the Burrow and Mahomes rivalry. And it has to do with, okay, is one of the teams winning a championship, right? Like I look at the Celtics and the Heat, I think they'd have a great chance, but neither of those teams have won a championship in the last 4 years. They've been to 3 out of the 4 Eastern Conference Finals against each other, which is a great story, but they don't have, two of the best players in the league, or at least positionally, the quarterback position, the most important in the NFL. Tatum is great. I think he's a top 7, top 8 player in the NBA. Jimmy Butler was a top 10 player, I think, by the end on most people's list, just as what he did in the playoffs. But neither of those guys they're not LeBron. They're not Steph, right? We really haven't had an NBA rivalry that kind of rivaled that since the Warriors and the Cavs were playing each other. And then Durant came over, and you'd kind of say like Durant and Curry against LeBron. But there hasn't really been a true rivalry in the NBA that can kind of rival the NFL's Burrow and Mahomes. I think it was interesting that Ronnie threw in there. I agree with you, Ronnie. Joe will get a ring. I'm with you there. I think it's interesting you threw in that they wanted it to be Josh Allen, and the Bills couldn't get it done. And then the Bengals just, Cobra Kai swept the leg on them and took that position. And I think, I'm grateful for it because I think they're a better overall team and they're more exciting. And the Jamar Chase factor added a lot of just firepower behind the engine, the media engine that the Bengals have now become. But they have a tough test in front of them because, Josh, who was your Super Bowl pick on the AFC side pending health last season? Do you remember?
The Ravens.
That's right. And that's in division. And Lamar's back. He's got some new toys. And I think that the Ravens-Bengals rivalry is going to be really, really fun for the next 3 to 5 years.
I do think that you bring up the Bills. I think the Bills have been jumped by a couple teams, to be honest.
I agree.
Like, I think to me, you got to, if you think who's the next team that could enter the fray in this Bengals, that can make it a triple threat match at WrestleMania, Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, and shout out to Nikki 619, Rey Mysterio, who can make it like this triple threat match? It's the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they are the big, by far and away the biggest contender in their division. Colts, Texans, Titans, meh. But the Jaguars are pretty legit to me. They took down Knicks Chargers last year in the playoffs. They could enter the fray just because they play those other 3 teams twice a year and have the best shot at winning their division. If you go across to the AFC West and Knicks team, Herbert and the Chiefs, let's say just for argument's sake that somehow the Chargers take down the Chiefs and win the division. All of a sudden, Herbert enters the fray in that rivalry. He's got a more clear path that way. To me, like as good as the Bills were last year, they were just as disappointing. This is maybe my hottest take I've had in a while. If the Bills finished 4th in that division, I wouldn't be absolutely blown away.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into our schedule prediction for the Patriots because I think you've kind of been just dropping a little breadcrumbs every few weeks here that you're low key a little in on this team. And
why not?
Sure, I mean, there's a few reasons why not. They have the worst quarterback in the division, but I think that goes a long way. And we'll see with their defense. And you have to play those other teams. You have 6 games against Rodgers and the Jets, who also have a great defense. The Dolphins, who have a very unique offense, and we saw last year were able to put points on teams in the second half like nobody else had done for the last 10 years in the NFL. And then you have the Buffalo Bills, who do have Josh Allen, and he is a dual threat at the quarterback position, and he presents a lot of challenges. You also have Stephon Diggs, who tweeted the other day, like, Buffalo, what's up? So he's back in, and he's really, really dangerous. One of the best receivers in the NFL. So I think there's a lot of reasons why the Patriots would be the kind of locked-in pick at the number 4. But they also have Bill Belichick, and you can use that as your trump card on, in any given matchup as well. Maybe not like you could 3-4 years ago, but it's great that Matt Patricia won't be calling the plays this year too. So I'm excited to see what that looks like for your squad.
Bill O'Brien back in the mix, which is great. I mean, look, do the Patriots have the worst quarterback in that division? For sure. Do they have the worst offense in that division? For sure. But you could make the argument, and no one would be surprised that they had the best defense. There are some good defenses. All those defenses in that division are good. Like, we have some real defensive pieces. Look, if the Patriots had a top 10 pick, I wouldn't be surprised. If we made the playoffs, so as a wild card, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we're going to win the division, but I wouldn't. My range is like, I'm not going to be surprised.
Are they the highest variance team for you in the NFL right now?
Everyone in that division is, because like, I don't know. Like, I need to see the Jets. I'm down for the Jets to be good, and we could kind of tailor this into the next topic I wanted to discuss with Dalvin Cook. Like, I'm like objectively, like, not like considering my rivalry with the Jets. I'm down for the Jets to be good, but I don't know. Like, they were like 7 wins with, like, like who's who at quarterback, but we have to see Rodgers kind of step up, and he did have a down year last year. The Dolphins were amazing, but unfortunately, like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, Tua is like one hit away from not only being seriously hurt, but maybe from being done in his career. So there's a lot of question marks in this. Like, Von Miller, how will he come back? How will Buffalo respond this year? There's a lot of question marks around these teams. So all these teams have the biggest variance, where I can kind of go division by division and team by team and really have like a clear picture of how I think things will go, or like in a smaller scope and a smaller range of how things will go, for me at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's never a bad pick when you're talking about highest variance of any NFL team, and you pick a team like the Dolphins, where, like you said, their quarterback might not be their quarterback come week 6, and then they're really in trouble because they don't really have a backup plan there, or at least one that's going to keep them in contention.
Yeah,
but
and I know we're
shout
talking.
Out Brock Osweiler, guys, step up. You never know what can happen.
That's true. Shout out Brock Osweiler. He did unfortunately step up against the Pats and earn a fat contract. Okay, I brought up Dalvin Cook. We're going to talk some running backs. I want some gut checks from you guys. Do you think it's possible he goes to the Jets, or is that just a smokescreen? And B, do you think that's a good move for the New York Jets to go and get Dalvin Cook?
Definitely think it's possible. I mean, look, when you have Rodgers, you're expecting that you maybe only have him for 2 to 3 years. So you got to capitalize on what you have right now. So go out and get all the pieces you can. And Dalvin Cook is probably the top free agent available right now. And, he played at a great level last year. It's just going to be a matter of how much he costs.
Mm-hmm. Toss?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on Breece Hall's health too. Like, is he ready to go? Is he looking exactly like he was prior to the injury last season? If he's not, okay, take a shot at Dalvin Cook. We like Michael Carter. We've liked him since he got into the league. He's still on that roster. Donovan Knight showed some flashes last year. I think their running back room is fine, even if they don't go get Dalvin Cook. But it's certainly a little more dangerous if he is in there. And, he's a really good pass catching back. And obviously Rodgers knows how to utilize his running backs out of the backfield. You see what Aaron Jones is able to do, with his partnership with Aaron Rodgers back in the Green Bay days. But I don't think it's a necessity for this team to be successful.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it is either. I just think that it's one of those things where you're right. It's about Breece Hall. Like, how ready is he? So this kind of takes that off them a little bit, to not rush him back to the field, to let him get, the full rehab process in, to, get his legs strong again. We saw J.K. Dobbins struggle coming back last season. That happens. Sometimes guys come back better than ever. I mean, obviously the year that Adrian Peterson tore his and came back and was dominant, I mean, it happens, but I think this would kind of alleviate some of the pressure for them to get the run game going if they had a top guy like Dalvin.
Yeah, I'm with you from the alleviation standpoint, Nick. I think taking some of the pressure off of quote unquote rushing Breece Hall back and having a guy like Dalvin in the mix who's proven, who could kind of plug and play in an NFL offense, and a guy, look, he's not old, but he's in the next chapter of his career. So he wants to win a ring. He wants to be competitive. And we talked about it on our Texas Horns Up the show with recruiting. Go check that show out if you haven't seen it. We have Deontay Tucker Dorsey coming on as a guest later today. He'll be dropping tomorrow. Really exciting stuff. One of the best transfers we've ever got in the portal last season, linebacker. But with Dalvin in the fold, a good offense is a good defense from a general manager standpoint. And where's the other team that Dalvin Cook is rumored to go right now? The Miami Dolphins, who are a division rival. So if you're the New York Jets, not only do you get a running back who's a proven commodity Pro Bowler in the running back room, you don't have to rush Breece Hall back. You could ease him in. You also prevent the Miami Dolphins from getting
Play a little defense.
Play a little defense, yeah. Get aggressive, bring him in. Dolphins don't get him. Leaves their running back room with Jeff Wilson, Devin Achane, who's a rookie, and Raheem Mostert, which I'm not saying is not good, but considerably weaker than the running back room in New York. Probably weaker than the running back room in Buffalo. Or just some more question marks because Wilson and Mostert didn't really do it. I actually like Devin Achane a lot. I think we all do out of A&M, the rookie. But I think that that'd be a really good defensive move from the New York Football Jets to go and get Dalvin Cook and keep him from Miami. Speaking of running backs, though, fantasy is right around the corner. We did our little first round fantasy mock draft the other day on our Best to Believe show on Stadium. Go check that out as well if you haven't seen it. Running backs that went in the first round, if you guys, just a little refresher, Eckler went in the first round. McCaffrey went in the first round. Derrick Henry went in the first round. Saquon Barkley went in the first round. I believe that was it, if memory does serve me correctly, because we had.
Did you say Henry?
Yep.
I said Henry, Barkley, CMC, Eckler. With the
Saquon?
others, Barkley, yeah.
Yep.
And Bijan. Thank you. Bijan Robinson. Those are the 5 running backs going in the first round of a 12-team mock draft. Now, reading a running back rooms can be really tough, especially with guys in new places. Here's some running backs and some running back rankings I want to just throw at you guys and kind of get the conversation started. Seattle, who for a long time was Rashad Penny, Chris Carson, both those guys. Unfortunately, injuries derailed their careers in Seattle. So the Water Falcons right now are rolling out Kenneth Walker III in his sophomore season. Had a strong rookie year, but he got hurt. And they took Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA in the second round. Kenneth Walker currently is the 20th running back, and Zach is the 41st ranked running back. Over in Philadelphia, they have the aforementioned Rashad Penny. He is the 40th ranked running back on ESPN, and the newly acquired DeAndre Swift is the 27th ranked running back. And then in Detroit, Rock City, Gibbs, the rookie out of Alabama, is the 16th ranked running back. They brought in David Montgomery, much to our disappointment, but he is, quote unquote, the better running back. To Jamal Williams, he's the 26th ranked running back. Just hearing that, those running back rooms, kind of your gut check thoughts on some of the numbers and throwing rankings I'm throwing at you guys in some of these running back rooms. Are there guys that you would want to wait on? Would you want to wait on Montgomery and pass on Gibbs? Would you want to nab both? Some thoughts here.
Yeah, I would wait on Montgomery. I mean, new team. Yeah, I think, they went up and got Gibbs for a reason. Now, I don't think he's always going to play running back. I think he's more of an offensive threat like Deebo Samuel is, but I'm always timid to see, if I want to take that guy. I mean, it worked out last year. If you had DeAndre Swift and you had Jamal Williams, they both panned out for you. But we'll see. These are 2 different guys. On the flip side, with Penny and DeAndre Swift, Penny coming off an injury it's tough. And he was well on his way to becoming a top running back in the league before he got hurt. But we'll see what Swift can do.
Anything jumping out there for you, Toss?
No, I mean, I think all 4 of those guys mentioned are RB2s in my mind, or flexes, honestly. Just by nature of volume and the rooms that they're involved in. Miles Sanders, if you drafted him with your 3rd RB slot last year, you were really, really happy, right? Because he had his best fantasy season, best, actual real life season as well for the Philadelphia Eagles. But that Jalen Hurts is going to vulture some of those touchdowns. And then they have really good 3rd and 4th string running backs too. And Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, and those guys get involved. So it's an offense you want to be a part of, but it's also one you can't rely on. I think out of all those guys, the most enticing one to me is probably Gibbs, just because of his just the vertical nature of in his speed when he breaks out in the open field. We've seen what he can do. Obviously, we saw that against our Texas Longhorns, and I think he's going to continue to do that in the NFL. I know guys, the defensive backfield and the linebacking cores are faster, but he's got speed at another level. So as far as home run hitters go, and of course, fear and a keeper, he's the most enticing guy to me out of those four named there. I think his value is probably around. It makes sense to me. What'd you say, 16? I'm seeing
he's 16th ranked running back on ESPN PPR.
Yeah, I think that feels right. And obviously, I think PPR, same thing applies in regards to Gibbs. I think he's going to be involved in the pass game, like Nick was saying, whether he's lined up in the backfield or he motions out to the slot. Yeah, I mean, I'd like him. I'd like to get some Jahmyr Gibbs stock. This is really early on, but I see. On this list that I'm looking, it's not ESPN Fantasy Pros, but Travis Etienne's one slot ahead of him. I like Travis Etienne a lot more than I like Jahmyr Gibbs, just because that guy's going to be a workhorse for this Jacksonville team, and he also gets involved in the pass game, and he also has the acceleration and speed to, put 70, 60-yard touchdown runs, on his stats for the season. But the running back position is really, really interesting. I mean, you're looking at a guy like Dalvin Cook, depending on where he falls, he turns back into a top 20 running back in fantasy, right?
Yeah.
And that's enticing. And it's interesting that he's a free agent right now. I mean, like, when was the last time that a guy like him at the running back position, we didn't know where they were going to end up? Has that happened?
Yeah. Not that, I mean, there's like the Odell thing, drafting Odell the past 2 years has been
sure. And
and
DeAndre Hopkins, right? Like, you don't know what team he's going to play on right now, but the receiver position, and we've seen that before, running back position, I feel like that's a little more rare.
Yeah. 100%. We brought up Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and that to me is the scariest running back room of the three I listed, because you really don't know how those guys are going to be deployed in Seattle. I actually like Swift coming. I know Gainwell and Scott are a bit worrisome, as is Penny, but if Swift is healthy, he's an uber efficient running back. And I think some of the pressure being taken off him and heading to a great offense like Philadelphia, him and Montgomery as your 27 and 26 RBs. Like, look, Jamal Williams led the league in touchdowns last year. Montgomery could come in and fill a very similar role. To me, it's the weirdest thing, because like growing up when we did fantasy, you always jumped on the RBs early. It was like 10 RBs in the first round, maybe a wide receiver or two, like Gronk could slip in. Now, to me, like, I know we had 5 in our first round of the mock draft, but if I had to redo it, I'd really consider really leaning heavy on wide receivers, because I'm looking at other running backs that weren't taken. And the league leading rusher, Josh Jacobs, wasn't taken. Jonathan Taylor wasn't taken. So those guys fell into round 2 for us. But Chubb gets his own team. Kareem Hunt's gone. Zeke's gone. So Pollard gets his own team. You have Joe Mixon. P. Ryan's gone, and he took away a lot of the touches last year. And then Ramondre Stevenson with Damian Harris gone. I mean, all those guys are uber efficient running backs and finally have their own running back room.
Yeah. It's an evaluation for a lot of those guys. Like, the only reason why Chubb is because they're not involved in the pass game. And I know a guy like Tony Pollard is, but a guy like Chubb and a guy like Ramondre Stevenson are not utilized in that same capacity as some of those guys that we picked in the first round. Even Jonathan Taylor isn't used as much in the pass game as a guy like Austin Eckler. And that's why Eckler was would you pick him second overall, third overall?
Yeah, he was the top RB last year.
Yeah. So that obviously makes huge
Stevenson
difference.
had 400 yards. He had 400 yards, Stevenson, last year, receiving.
Yeah.
He could pop.
Yeah. I mean, he's a really talented running back. And the thing with that Patriots offense is you hope they stretch the field a little bit more now. And so maybe you get a few less checkdowns per game. For your sake, as a fan of the team, you probably want them to at least show some sort of vertical threat game in, game out. Ronnie, just, keeping at it in the chat, which I love. He's asking if either of us have a sleeper team in the NFL this year, his or Cleveland and Seattle.
No offense. I don't think Seattle was really a sleeper. They made the playoffs last year. Cleveland, maybe. I would say my sleeper team in the NFL is, we mentioned Jordan Love at the top of the show. If Jordan Love's great, like, the Packers can head right back to the playoffs. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know that a sleeper necessarily means that they made the playoffs last year that they can't be a sleeper this year because they snuck into the playoffs last year.
I agree. The expectations for that team were incredibly low going into the season. We did not expect them to be a playoff team.
They are now.
The 49ers exist in that division. I still think that, like, where are they in terms of when you power rank the NFC? Are they, like, where are they for you? Because they're behind the Cowboys and the 49ers and the Eagles.
It's also a new season too. Like,
who's Seattle?
Right. Yeah.
Seattle is probably in that 6 to 10 range.
Yeah, that's a dark horse. That's a sleeper type pick.
For what though? For like to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah. When you say sleeper, like you're not just to make the playoffs. It's like to
okay, so sleeper to do it all.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and that's a real sleeper. Like a sleeper to do it all. Like a guy.
We got the Cape Crusader over here in the middle.
Dark Knight action. The sleeper to do it all. That's tough. I would have to think on that a little more. Like the Jets are like not really a sleeper. Like people are expecting them to be in the mix.
I mean, does Detroit count as a sleeper?
It's tough because like I think the parity in the NFL, like there's like the teams that are really good, right? You have your top tier teams. A little sparkling water we're seeing on the live stream with Alex. See the welcome back, Toss. I don't know. I feel like the parity is like the teams that are bad are really bad, and the teams that are good are really good. Like the Lions, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if they went to the NFC Championship. Like if we're talking sleeper, I need to be surprised. Like whoa, like I did not. Like, I guess you guys are right. Like I did not see the Seahawks make, like if you told me that the Seahawks were going to have a top 5 pick, I would have been like yes. If you would have said that it was the Broncos pick, I would have been shocked.
I really don't think that we have the right definition of sleeper because in years past, when we talk about fantasy sleepers, we're talking about guys who are like, taken in the 5th, 6th round that can end up popping off. It's not like guys you don't expect that you get in, the 10 to 12 range. Like,
I disagree.
Like, who are really the sleeper options here? Because I think there's a lot of teams in the NFL that are capable of actually being good. I mean, if you're looking at the options for teams that would actually surprise you and not be good, that's like the Texans, that's like the Colts, it's like the Broncos, the Bears, the Falcons,
the Bears and the Colts are real sleepers. The Bears and the Colts, like those are teams that have made the playoffs in the last 4 years. They dropped off a little bit. Like they are teams that they've made serious moves. And if Anthony Richardson absolutely popped off and was the starting quarterback and the Colts went and won the division, which they did a couple years ago, or made the playoffs, which they did a couple years ago, then I wouldn't it would be a sleeper. But like saying someone's a sleeper that made the playoffs, like, no, they're not a sleeper. They were there. For me, at least. I mean, maybe we all.
But you just said you wouldn't be surprised. I'm doubling back on the Lions. I'm doubling back on the Lions because the Lions haven't made the NFC Championship since 1991. That team didn't make the playoffs last season. They have been a terrible franchise in regards to playoff success for a long time.
They got a new helmet.
I don't see how I get who's on their team this year. I get who their coach is, but guess what? Their coach hasn't been to the playoffs yet. It would be an absolute dark horse of a pick for the Lions to get to the NFC Championship. I believe in the talent for their team. I just want to make sure that we clarify that this is not that would be a feat for them. Them getting to the NFC Championship would be incredibly huge for their franchise.
I think dark horse, yeah, of course. But I think dark horse, even to me, dark horse and sleeper are two different things.
Okay.
So maybe we're just I think it goes.
So I think
contender,
they are a sleeper because I think they're a sneaky dark horse contender to me, which is a sleeper.
A sleeper is something that's been slept on. Like people are sleeping on these teams. No one's sleep. People have high expectations for the Lions. People think the Lions could win that division.
Yeah.
Like the Bears are a sleeper. Like the Bears could maybe win could make the playoffs and make a run if Justin Fields explodes.
But winning the division is. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
When you say people are sleeping on this, that means that they're good and people don't know that they're good. Like people are sleeping on mimosas at brunch. People are sleeping on, hibachi.
They're not. Everyone knows mimosas at brunch are good, bro. It's a thing.
Yeah, but
mimosas at brunch are overrated. Just by the way.
I'm just saying that's by definition when you're saying we're sleeping on this, you're sleeping on that. It's something that some people don't understand is good, right? Like,
But I think people understand the Lions are good.
I don't think everyone does. The Bears are not a team that people are sleeping on because they're not going to be good next year. They're going to be okay, but they're not going to win the division and they're not going to make a run.
Right. Anybody
People
who
said
says
that about
that
the Water
anybody who says that the
Falcons.
Bears are a sleeper, meaning that they could get to like the second round of the playoffs, is not like living in rational thought right now. They're doing it for a take at that point, in my opinion. Because if you look at what they can do, like, and what we saw them do last year, like the expectation is if they make the playoffs, that is an incredibly great season for them, and we should give them their flowers just for that and give them a massive round of applause. The Bears make the first round of the playoffs, awesome,
unbelievable.
I think Ronnie here said it great. He's a Bengals fan, but Cleveland is a sleeper and Baltimore is the dark horse. I don't know if Baltimore is necessarily a dark horse because I think that with a healthy Lamar, they could end up being a favorite. I mean, they're neck and neck when it comes to winning that division, I think.
And for a Super Bowl, I think they could. They had the number one offense last year.
How many teams each season do you really believe can win the Super Bowl?
10.
That's a lot of teams.
That's
way too many teams. That's too many teams.
It's not.
I think
six
teams.
Okay, fine. 6 teams. Can the Chiefs win the Super Bowl?
Duh.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just all right. Humor me here. God. Can the Bengals win the Super Bowl?
Yep.
Yes.
Can the Ravens win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Can the Bills win the Super Bowl?
No.
I'm with Nick.
Can the Dolphins or Jets?
Nope. No. Actually, I'm 50-50 on the Jets. We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta wait and see on the Jets. My gut says, but if I'm 50-50, I say no. That's how I play it.
Can the Jaguars or Chargers win the Super Bowl?
No and no.
Can the Cowboys win the Super Bowl?
No. Sorry, Toss.
Okay. I really think they can.
I think they can too, but I
think you guys are being hard on the Bills. Whatever. Eagles, can they win the Super Bowl?
Yes.
There's only one other team in the NFC that should be named.
The Niners.
That's it.
So you think the Vikings have no chance, the Bills have no chance, the Jets, Dolphins, I guess you need to see the Jets. But
the only teams I'm on the fence about right now is the Jets, like Nick said, and then
it's not 10 teams. It's more like 8 to 6.
7. Yeah.
I think the Vikings have a shot at getting there. I really think they have a shot. I'm not counting the Vikings out. I'm not counting the Lions out with everything they've added. Goff has been there before. And I'm definitely not counting out Buffalo, despite us crapping on them, for a majority of the show. And if Miami is healthy and the things work out for the Jets, they're all those are contenders to me. Some of them may be more dark horses, like the Dolphins and the Lions.
I think you got to evaluate it though, because think about who they'd be playing when they get to the playoffs and who they'd have to knock out. So if we're mentioning the Cowboys and the 49ers and the Eagles, and you're the Detroit Lions, you think they're going to beat those teams 3 games in a row?
They're not going to play those. I don't think they'll be playing.
Okay, 2 of those teams. 2 of those teams then.
I don't think it's impossible.
It's not impossible. You know what is impossible though? The Raiders going all the way in the Super Bowl. Let's break down their schedule because we got to follow the trend before we run out of time here.
We do have to follow the trend before we run out of time. All right, I'm going to pull it up for you guys. This one, I will admit, not looking good for the boys in Vegas. We will continue this another time. Okay, breaking down the Las Vegas Raiders schedule. What will they go? For those who don't remember the rules, here's how it flows. I will ask a game to Alex and Nick. If they agree, it automatically counts. I am the tiebreaker. Week 1, Vegas heads to Denver. Win or loss?
I think that's a win.
Loss.
I think they win too, actually. At Buffalo, week 2.
I think that's a loss.
Loss.
Okay, 1-1. Home versus the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Sunday night game.
I think
that's a win.
Okay.
I'll say loss.
I'm going to go I'm going to go loss. I actually think the Steelers are going to be solid this year. At LA Chargers.
I'm gonna go loss.
Loss.
1-3 heading to Lambeau Field Monday night.
Win.
Loss.
I'm with it. Loss. At Foxborough. Oh, sorry. Home versus the Patriots in Vegas.
Win.
Win.
Josh McDaniels revenge game.
Uh-oh. Week 7, week 8 at Chicago, at Detroit.
I'm gonna go.
Detroit's a Monday night game in week 8.
I'm gonna go win against Chicago, loss against Detroit.
I will ride that.
Okay, so win and an L. We are 3-5, heading back to Vegas for the New York Giants, week 9, and the New York Jets for another night game, Sunday night, week 10.
I think they beat the Giants, lose to the Jets.
I think they lose both those games.
So we automatically have one loss in there.
Mm-hmm. And you're the swing on the Giants.
I think they get
Darren Waller revenge game.
No. Ugh.
If he's available.
There, I was about to say Darren Wall is going to make it to week 9.
Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to make it to week 9?
Guys, you guys are bringing up some really good points here. I'm going to give them a win.
Okay. So they're 4-6.
At Miami, week 11, then back home versus Kansas City, week 12, before the bye.
I'm going to give them a loss against Miami and a loss against Kansas City.
I will ride that. Double L's.
Double L's. Right now, we are sitting at 4-8 through 12 weeks heading into the bye. Everyone's a winner there. You head to week 14 versus Minnesota, and then you have a Thursday night game on Amazon Prime versus the Los Angeles Chargers at home. Both home games.
Win against Minnesota.
Okay.
Win against Los Angeles Chargers.
Ooh, Nick.
I will take a win against Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I will take a loss against the Chargers.
I'll take a loss against the Chargers too. We got faith in your boys, Nick. Okay, then to close it out, Monday. Christmas game. It's a Christmas game at Kansas City.
It's a Christmas miracle. They're gonna beat the Chiefs. I'm gonna give it to Ronnie. And put it in your guys' hands.
Yeah, I'm gonna say they lose that game on Christmas to the Chiefs.
Yes, sad Christmas for Garoppolo, McDaniels, and the boys. Then they go on New Year's Eve day to Indianapolis.
New Year's Eve day. I think they lose that game.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a win.
I'm going to give them a win, too. I think the Colts have a tough time this year, maybe. Then home versus the Broncos, week 18.
In a meaningless game, I think they win.
I think it won't be meaningless, and I think the Broncos win.
I think the Raiders win, but I'm with Toss that it is not meaningless. Every game matters in the NFL. Gentlemen, that is all the time we have today. Very excited.
Can we get the final record for them?
7-10. We'll do a recap. I'll go through all the other records again, and we'll do a recap.
That's not bad.
It's fun. It's fine.
It's better than last year, right?
Better than last year, I believe.
They were 6-11 last year. It's a 1-game improvement.
Shout out to Josh McDaniels. Will he be fired after the 7-10 record? The world may never know. Gentlemen, if
they go 7-10, Devontae Adams is got like 1,600 receiving yards.
He's going to be great.
14 touchdowns.
He's going to go off again.
Hopefully he's on another team by the deadline.
Ooh, Nick, we could discuss that another time too. All right, Chris Harris Jr. joins us tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. PST. We'll talk a little Broncos. We'll talk a little bit of Devontae Adams. And we'll talk a little, just the whole AFC West. And we'll get his take on how many teams can really contend for Super Bowl and what defines a sleeper or a dark horse. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. Fisher DeSopoulos, Snacks, Crider, hit your free throws because they're free. We out show. We love you.